Hey! Hi guys, it's Christine. So today I'm going to be giving you guys some tips on how you can get straight A's this semester, because I know it is entirely possible as long as you believe in yourself. I don't know why I just said that, no. But yes, if you want to get good grades, to go to a good college, to pursue your dreams, then continue watching this video. Let me go get my thinking glasses on actually. Okay. Tip number 1 would be to always pay attention in class. This is really important because you never know if whatever your teacher is teaching is going to be on a quiz or a test. Besides all the stuff that you read in your textbook, what your teacher says is extra added information that you can't get from your textbook that she might add to your test. So what I would highly recommend, and what most teachers already expect you to do, is to take notes in class. And the way I like to make this fun is by using really fun colored pens and highlighters. Just got this set of pens recently. It was $11 for 12 really nice Pilot G2 inky pens. Get some really awesome writing utensils for back to school, and taking notes in class and learning will become all that more fun. But don't just take those notes, make sure that you really soak in all the information, internalize it so that you can remember it better. So now moving on to all the stuff that you do on your own outside of the classroom. So grades usually consist of homework. Most teachers give out homework. Tests / quizzes / essays, projects, participation maybe, and lastly extra credit. So your goal, if you want to get straight A's, is to ace all of these categories, and I'm going to teach you how. So starting off with the homework category, you should definitely be getting 100% on this category, because there should be no reason why you don't do your homework. Most teachers check homework based on completion and not accuracy, so you don't even have to get the answers right, you just have to do it. Unless you forget to write down what the homework is before you leave the classroom, you really have no excuse. So my tip number 2 would definitely be to do your dang homework. If you're like me and you have trouble procrastinating, then I would highly recommend this app called 3030, which I believe you could get on your phone, but I use it on my iPad, and you basically create a list of all the stuff that you need to do, and it gives you 30 minutes to do each task, and you could add 5 minutes, subtract 5 minutes, but the whole point is it keeps you on track and you have a sense of how much stuff you need to do for the day. It's a free app and I would recommend it. Also, if you have a take-home essay to do for homework and you really just cannot focus, everything is distracting you, then I would recommend listening to some classical music. My favorite would have to be Mozart, and I will link a Mozart playlist down below of this guy on YouTube. A lot of the times I just go on my iPad or my iPhone onto Pandora and I listen to the Wolfgang Mozart radio station, and that is awesome as well. Yeah, highly recommend that, because when I listen to classical music, I just get in the zone. So now that you already have an A+ in the homework category, let's move on to the tests and quizzes category, which is pretty much where a lot of people stumble when it comes to their grade. This is why doing your homework is super important. When you struggle with the homework a bit, then you could come to class the next day and ask your teacher questions, and most of the time teachers are happy to answer all your questions, and it's a way of learning on the way instead of cramming everything the night before the test, which is what I do all the time, but besides the point. Especially when you're studying for math tests, doing your homework is super important, because throughout the chapter while you're doing the homework, you could just circle the ones that are a little bit confusing, so that when it comes time to taking the test, you could just review all the questions that were confusing. Also, I would recommend doing the review questions at the end of the chapter, and not just the odd problems, but also the even problems, because they're important too. I would definitely recommend you don't avoid the hard and weird problems, because a lot of times my math teachers would put those on the test as well. As far as English tests go, it's really important to read the book, but if you're like me and you just don't like reading what you don't like reading, I would highly recommend Schmoop.com. This website was my biggest lifesaver in English class, because a lot of times I wasn't able to read the book. Even though you read the book, you're gonna have to remind yourself of all the details that were involved in the book. I would suggest going through the whole summary, the whole themes and analysis, characters and quotes, all that jazz. SparkNotes is good too, but I just love Schmoop because the way that the people write on the website is a little bit more of like the younger language Yeah. Also, if the book you're reading in English has a movie to it, watch the movie. It helps. As long as it's like a correct representation of the book, but. And lastly, for all the science, history courses that require just a lot of memorization, I recommend to read the textbook, but not just read it because you're just gonna forget all the detail. I would definitely suggest that you outline while you're reading, because that way you can organize all the information in your brain so your brain doesn't end up fried and scattered with a bunch of like meaningless info that you just can't categorize in your brain, you know? So while you're reading, you know, put down the subtitles and the titles, bold the vocab words, write down what those mean and important concepts, maybe some examples, and this will definitely help you when it comes time for taking the test, because you could just review the outline and you're kind of good to go. If you're not so much of an outline person, then you can also create flashcards by just writing down the important vocab words and also the important concepts, because that's what's also really important. And lastly, before tests, you might want to create a study guide. And if you really have trouble understanding a concept on something that's going to be on a test, what I like to do is search up videos on the internet. My favorite dude is, oh my gosh, what's his name? Khan Academy. But there's so many tutorials on the internet, and sometimes you're gonna have those days where you don't even wanna know. You don't wanna study at all. It just sucks. You're just so sick of it. And you're just gonna be distracted, you're on your computer. I would highly recommend a website blocker, and I actually never use one of these, but I really should have. I don't exactly know how it works, but I will link some down below. Lastly, if you're just so miserable studying by yourself, then I would recommend study with your friends at the library or at the cafe or at your friend's house, but mostly the library. The library is awesome. The important thing though is that you have to choose the right friend. I usually just go with one other friend, or maybe you want to go with a group of friends, but make sure that you guys are focusing, because I've had instances where I would go study with my friends and then not even study. Make sure you're going with someone who really wants to get an A on that test as well. You guys could help each other by asking each other questions, and you guys could have study breaks together and be miserable together, and it's just so much more fun that way. When you really don't feel like studying, go study with your friends. So hopefully with those tips for tests and quizzes, you'll be able to at least get into the B category. You should try to strive for the A category just in case when it comes time for the final exam. You don't want to be too stressed out, but for the most part, just try avoiding C's on tests and quizzes. But you know, if you do get one, it's not the end of the world. For the participation category, definitely freaking participate, guys. If your teacher is including participation in their grade, don't think it's not important, because for me, I ended up getting a B in English by 1 point. And that was a teacher that gave out participation points, and I didn't participate once in that class. If I just said like one comment about something, I could have gotten an A. Like just one little comment, I could have gotten an A, and so that's the difference. You should learn from my mistake. Every single point counts. If it's participation, make that point count. And for the last category, it's extra credit. Don't risk not doing the extra credit. Unless you have a high A, just do the extra credit. If you could just get like 1 point out of it, then that point can make a difference. And you don't want to regret when it comes down to it that you could have done extra credit to get an A, but nope, you missed out. Probably my last and final tip would be to get good rest. This is really hard to do if you procrastinate, and that's what really screwed me over, because when you don't get good sleep, it ruins your entire cycle. What's really important when you're trying to do well in school is to keep up with a good cycle. What I'm trying to say is if you sleep late, then the next morning you're gonna be freaking tired and not want to pay attention in class, come home finally and want to knock out and procrastinate, sleep late, go to school the next day tired, and that horrendous cycle just repeats over and over again. And so if you have a good cycle, you get a good night's rest, and the next day you're able to pay attention in class, come home, just get your homework over with, get to sleep early, and the cycle just repeats. Your life is mediocre at best. So that is all the tips that I'm going to give from yours sincerely, Dr. Christine. No. Yeah, most importantly, do not stress about school. If you try your best and you don't make it to Stanford or Yale, then you probably don't belong there anyway. Whatever happens will happen, and you just don't want to have any regrets for not giving it your all. So don't be too pressured, and especially if you're like a freshman watching this video, yeah, good luck. If you want more advice and tips from me about anything, then leave your requests down below and I'll be happy to answer them. School is beautiful.